has said is already putting these sanctions on and blockades. You're a Navy guy, and Ron Paul's pointed it out. That is an act of war right there, a blockade.
Absolutely, and what it does, if people go back in history, we did the same thing to Japan. They blockaded Japan. They stopped a total blockade of the country of Japan, which forced Japan truly to then attack us. They were left with two choices: surrender or attack. Japan chose the latter. They chose to attack us at Pearl Harbor. But a lot of people forget we forced their hand at Pearl Harbor by the blockade we had against them. And the same holds true with Iran now. We're blockading them. We're forcing their hand. And they're, all of these candidates just wait and hope that Iran will do something, that Iran will respond, so that then they can all stand up there and say, see, we told you, all the problems of the world are because of Iran. And now we're getting them.
Meanwhile, our government, as you know, has overthrown them at least 2 times, evidence of a third as well. Shifting gears here, because it's the top of Drudge Report right now, Kelly Clarkson, the American Idol winner, which is about as big as it gets nowadays in America, says she loves Ron Paul. It's a big deal when prominent celebrities, not just governors, that's even more important, endorse Ron Paul. I haven't seen any news where they've given your support to Ron Paul. Do you want to publicly state, Governor Ventura, that you are endorsing Ron Paul?
Absolutely. I'm an independent, and I don't, get involved with either political party, because I despise both of them. But out of all the candidates out there in these 2 major parties right now, that's the president with the Democrats and there's 7 or 8 Republicans, whoever they all are. I know who they are, but why list them? Ron Paul has Governor Jesse Ventura's endorsement without a doubt. It's not even close, because I want a new president that's going to change the direction of this country. I want a new president that's going to follow the Constitution. I want a new president that's going to believe in states' rights. I want a new president. I want somebody that will shock the status quo.
Yes.
And Ron Paul will do that. Then the only thing we have to worry about is keeping him alive.
Well, what a dangerous precedent where both political party leadership say anybody who could ever potentially be a threat, we've got to preemptively attack them. That's what Hitler said. He said, I've got to attack France and I've got to attack Poland and I've got to attack England and the Russians because they might attack us. That's what tyrants always say.
Let me give this one out to you. Hypothetical situation, Alex, for all you and your listeners. Let's say Hugo Chavez down in Venezuela, who's got a lot of money, and he fears the United States because of our military buildup and all this, and he fears that we could attack them at any moment because he kicked out Exxon. Well, what if Hugo Chavez went and got one of these unmanned drones? And what if Hugo Chavez flew that unmanned drone over United States airspace seeking to get intelligence about our war machine? And what if that drone crashed in our country? I would like to pose the question to every one of these Republican candidates and state this: if you were the president, what would you do if that happened? And I'll bet you their response would sound very Iranian, wouldn't it?
Oh, well, they would probably actually say attack the country. The Iranians...
I agree. I think that the United States, if an unmanned drone flew over our airspace, was using it for surveillance on us and crashed here in our country, just as we did in Iran, we would declare war on whatever country that was and take immediate military response. And it just killed. Nobody asked the question, what gives us the right to fly unmanned drones over other countries to seek intelligence? When we certainly would not allow it here. The hypocrisy of the United States is so ridiculous today, Alex. That's why I want Ron Paul, because Ron Paul will end United States hypocrisy.
Well, you're right, Governor. Expanding on that, we've got to continue to vote for him and support him because that keeps him at the top of the polls and allows him to inject real issues. But now they claim hackers are going to attack, and I predicted this last week. So now the Republicans are going to take all the Iowa votes and count them in secret. That's CBS News reporting that it's now going to be secret, and the feds are going to come in and help. And so
isn't that a great excuse? It sounds like weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda in Iraq. You know, that's a big load of BS. You know, what needs to happen in this country is very simple. We need to get rid of electronic voting machines, and we need to go back to paper ballots that can be counted. If you're not capable of filling in the blank, which you've been doing since first or second grade in grade school, every time you take a test, you have to true false. You have to fill in that little circle. If a voter is not capable of doing that, they shouldn't even be voting.
Well, we've only got a few minutes left, Governor, and we won't get to talk to you until you're back from Mexico. And obviously, when you get back with a new book coming out in the next rollout of the next season of the TV show. But
that's why I'm bailing out. I want to get out of here before the TV show rolls. I'll be on the hit list when it rolls this year.
well, I want to talk about that.
I'm going to get as far out of this country as I can because they're going to be after me.
What about, Gary Johnson now is going to seek the Libertarian ticket, and that's good because he can inject some good ideas there. But obviously, you would be a superstar if you ran. And I know the Libertarians now, have talked to you and said, well, seek it because it comes out of the state level, obviously. But you're not going to be throwing your hat in the 2012 race, sir?
I don't think so at this time. I don't think that I'm mentally ready to seek the presidency at this point in time. I would still consider a VP shot. If somebody else, if Ron Paul or Gary Johnson or whatever, I would give that due consideration. But if I were to go for president, I like to ensure I go after it to win, Alex. And as a third-party candidate, it's very difficult to win when you have an incumbent. So 2016 suits me far better than 2012 does, personally.
Well, you're working out. You're in great shape, so we know you're going to be around then, Lord willing.
We hope so, anyway. But anyway, Alex, again, I encourage all your listeners, if you truly want revolution and change in this country, there's only one candidate out there in the two major parties that's going to give that to you, and that's Congressman Ron Paul of Texas. I can't emphasize it more. And don't listen to mainstream media. Ron Paul is achieving huge success with mainstream media against him, the status quo against him, both parties against him. That has to tell the American people something. Because always remember, we're in the predicament we're in today because of the Democrats and Republicans. They cannot deny it. They've been in charge for over 100 years now. They are the fault. They are the problem. And the only way out of this problem is by electing someone like Ron Paul. He's the only way out. Any of these other guys, it's going to be business as usual, people. You're going to have the same government that you've had for the last 50 years if you elect anyone but Ron Paul.
Well, Governor, that's my final question that I wanted you to make a point on, and then I know you've got to leave us. We appreciate you coming on today right before you leave town. But looking at this, normally the so-called mainstream dinosaur media, who's been caught lying thousands of times and is totally discredited, could demonize somebody and it would work. But now, even with his son Rand Paul, the more they demonize, it actually helps them. And so the system's got to understand that this shows that the awakening, thanks to your work and Ron Paul's work and my work and many others, is really starting to have an effect. And so now the inventors of the internet have gone public and said, yes, this new bill, SOPA, does shut down free speech and selectively allows them to shut people down for no reason. And the government says they want Pentagon on the streets and to secretly arrest Americans. I mean, everything we've warned about is now manifesting, and that shows the system is panicking and taking that velvet glove off the iron fist. I mean, is it really, what is it like to have everything you've warned about now being vindicated and validated, Governor?
Well, it's not a good feeling. I mean, I like to know that I'm right, but I wish I was wrong.
I hear you.
I was completely wrong on this, but people need, again, I can't emphasize it enough. They're going, they passed this 1768 bill that you're talking about that's going to put American troops inside our country arresting people. Let's remember, every member of Congress, every member of the Senate and Congress and the President, including all of our military personnel now and before, we all have one thing in common. We all took an oath, and in that oath we swore to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and today domestic. And I believe every one of these Republican candidates is opposed. If they voted for against the Constitution, and they should be impeached for it.
Well, I agree. They all supported it, even if they weren't in Congress. That they all said, yes, secretly arrest Americans. And then they had
not all of them. Believe it or not, Senator Al Franken of Minnesota in the tune of Paul Wellstone voted against it.
No, I mean, you're right. I was talking about of the Republican candidates, they all endorsed it except for Ron Paul.
Exactly. So if you people believe that are listening out there, believe in your Constitution, believe in your Bill of Rights, and you believe that these are the founding documents that our country should be based upon, every one of those candidates is a traitor for having supported a bill that will put American troops on the streets arresting American citizens.
And then you find out the whole Homeland Security situation is for the American people. Even the L.A. Times last week had the headline, TSA, not just for airports. And they said shopping malls, highways. They tripled their funding, Governor. And they said all 50 states. And they said you're going to get pat-downs, everything, Governor.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, if this ain't martial law being declared without officially declaring it, then I don't know what it is. And it's time for the people of this country to stand up and say no. And the only way, the best way of doing that right now is to elect Ron Paul president.
All right, sir. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. And I guess I'll talk to you when you get back from Mexico. Do you know when you're coming back?
Sometime before Memorial Weekend, if it goes according to schedule. But then again, Alex, I never live by a schedule down there.
I hear you. Well, give your lovely and wonderful wife, Terry, my best.
And best to you and your family, too, Alex. Have a great new year. And to everyone out there, chin up, keep the fight up. Let's take our country back, and we can do it with Ron Paul.
All right. God bless you, Governor. Take care.
Thank you, Alex. Bye-bye.
There he goes. Yeah, I called up the Gov yesterday because he called into the show last week, and I was talking to him about Ron Paul, and he was really busy getting ready to leave town this weekend, and I twisted his arm into popping in, and he said, all right, I got to go do some chores, but I'll call in sometime. And I apologize that he ended up calling in when Doug Rokke was going to be on with us. We'll keep him a little bit into the next hour so that we get a full hour interview with Dr. Doug Rokke, who joins us right now. And he has a long bio. He earned his BS in physics at West Illinois University, followed by his MS and Ph.D. in physics and technology education at the University of Illinois. His military career spanned 4 decades, including combat duty during Vietnam War and Gulf War I. Served as a member of the 3rd U.S. Army Medical Command Nuclear, Biological, and Chemical NBC Teaching Medical Response and Special Operations Team, 3rd U.S. Army Captured Equipment. Folks, this is 3 pages long. I'm going to have to stop. Most of the modern NBC training that police get is Doug Rokke wrote it. He wrote the book on DU. There's no way I can cover all of this. I mean, but you know, it's important to hear all this, though. And Special Operations, 3rd U.S. Army Captured Equipment Project Team, and with 3rd U.S. Military Depleted Uranium Assessment Team during the Gulf War, 1st Operation Desert Storm. He led those. He was the U.S. Army's Depleted Uranium Project Director from 94 to 95. He developed the congressionally mandated education training materials and wrote U.S. Army Regulations 700-48 and the U.S. Army PAM 700-48 and the U.S. Army Common Task for DU incidents. Doug has taught nuclear, biological, chemical warfare, hazardous material, and emergency medicine for 20 years for both civilian and military personnel. Dr. Rokke was one of the original authors of the 1982 EDRAT Emergency Disaster Response Assistance Team proposal with